female too. So, and then also Galveston Island Brewing has a number of female brewers, and it's definitely brothers and sisters in brew at this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of very talented, dynamic, awesome women in the brewery industry, especially in our area here. So there's going to be 4 more condo buildings, and these are going to be a little bit more higher end. This is on the south side, so this is on the Clear Lake side of Nassau Road 1.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, where they're going to have a couple houses as well.
Yeah, there's going
to be a few houses over there as well.
40 units in 4 different condo buildings from the 400s to the mid-600s, 2 swimming pools and a lazy river, and then 41 townhomes priced from the 500s to the high 700s. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, and like I said, they've already started work on this. This is, I've seen so many renderings and different things come my way over the last 15 years in this area of plans.
None of them panned out.
Well, a lot don't, some do, but this is full speed ahead.
So, no, this one's full speed ahead.
And of course, as somebody that grew up in Taylor Lake Village and currently lives in Alago, I'm very excited about this. This is like I said, this is the old Alago Marina spot. It's actually where Bruce Bullock, I think, had his first dealership.
That's right. Yeah. I saw him the other day at the bank.
One of the top names in high performance boating in the country, in the world.
And still to this day, I think me and John both agree our number one guest. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, well,
just throwing that out there.
Stories being,
I think he was like the number one man. He was like the GOAT episode.
Yeah, from selling Mario Williams a Go Fast boat right after he signed his $100 million contract to. Being
managing of an international racing team,
the Husky Chocolate, to being invited to Moscow to meet with all the leaders there to put on a big race.
He sold boats to Africa, Ukraine. I mean, he's done it all, man.
He's been all
So, okay, let's talk about a couple of the quick things. So like John said, you know what? We're going to get messed up unless we don't work our way down. So we talked about the Taylor Lake development going on, which is super, super cool. Let's go a little bit further. So to the famous Causeway. So we're
the Clear Lake Causeway.
We're in Seabrook. We're in El Lago. We're in Taylor Lake Village. And then we're in
what comes next?
We're in Pasadena. And then we're in an area that's kind of uncharted. We are we're on the Causeway. We're across from the old West Mansion, which we've talked about, which is just absolutely historical for the area. And then we're at the historical Hilton Hotel right next to that. There is a plot of land which NASA, back to space, has used so many times to bring in different parts, equipment, stuff literally from the 7 seas. I mean, I don't know where they make this stuff or where they bring it from, but they bring in stuff that might be from some other country from across the ocean, or, maybe it started on a bigger ship and got to a barge and made its way in. I don't know how this works, but they bring in big equipment on the water that they can't bring in on the road.
Yeah, back in the day,
heavy. It's too. You got to lift the lights up too much.
Yeah, back in the day, they for the Johnson Space Center, they brought in a lot of things. A lot of equipment, and by barge. NASA has a facility in New Orleans, right outside New Orleans, and also another one in Mississippi. So I imagine those kind of played a role, and of course
they probably came from there.
But then most recently, and I think it's literally been almost 10 years. I think it was like 10 years last month was when they brought in the shuttle replica. By the sea, brought it all the way from Florida, all the way from the visitor center at Cape Canaveral, brought it all the way down around Florida.
Guys, we're talking right at the dead end of Space Center
Boulevard, and that's Road 1.
Yeah, so this is probably the biggest, when you think Clear Lake, there's really two things. You're driving down Nassau Road 1 and you pass the Hilton and you see the lake on the right. It's just that's Clear Lake.
Yeah.
You pass the Hilton, here's Clear Lake.
Right.
Or you're coming out of the city of Clear Lake, which isn't on the water actually, and then you dead end at the actual Clear Lake. Yeah. And that's here's Clear Lake. I mean, these 2 points right at the Hilton, right where we're talking about, is really where this area we're talking about, the Waterfront Capital of Texas, really opens up. This is kind of the gate right there. It starts in Nassau Bay, but you can't really see the water until you get to where we're talking about. So they finally sold this land. I guess NASA can no longer use it, and I'm sure they'll figure something out. But and I always thought the Hilton should take it over and redo the pool because
Yeah.
the old 90s, early 2000s pool days, I didn't get to experience it, but they used to have awesome pool parties at the Hilton. The Hilton's been there since the 80s, lots of amazing history, but they didn't develop it. And so now they're going to put in a couple of condos. I think John might have.
Yeah, it's going to be the residence on Clear Lake.
Yeah, okay.
So we're talking about Nassau Bay. It's going to be 2 5-story buildings along the water's edge. Yeah.
Right.
Each is going to have 20 condos, 2 and 3 bedroom units, 1,800 to 2,200 square foot.
So 40 units altogether.
Yeah, 40 units from the low 500s to the 700,000s.
A bargain.
Yeah, right.
Bargain, guys. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, so $500,000 up, boat slips, 2 pools, and they're expected to be completed by next summer of 2023.
Yeah, so that's pretty. They're doing work.
Yeah,
they are bulldozing and moving rock around, and I got to say, I'm super impressed because they've only got 2 pieces of equipment over there. There's like a Bobcat and like one other like Caterpillar thing, and I don't know who's running these machines, but I'm impressed. They are moving the earth over there with not a lot of stuff, but every time I go by, it's a little bit further along.
It's a pretty tight footprint. That's why
footprint. Honestly, I was telling my friend about it earlier. He was like, "What? Where? How?" He didn't get it, and I'm like, "Dude, it's there. They're going to park underneath." So, like John said, 40 units. You only need 40 parking spaces. So, guys, they're probably going to have 1 or 2 floors parking underneath the building. He said 5 floors. I'm imagining it's 3 to 4 living, 1 to 2 for parking. We don't know exactly. It may say here, but there's not going to be a lot of parking that's not under the buildings, meaning the buildings are going to take up this entire piece of land.
Yeah.
Are they going to go out onto the water a little bit? We don't know. Maybe these apartments are going to go out 10, 15, 20 feet into the water, not necessarily overhanging, but are they going to build a little bit out to like have their pool kind of on the water or something like that? We don't know.
You know it's going to be one of those infinity pools, right? It's got to be, right?
It's a very iconic location. So, like we were talking about, you're going to dead end at Space Center Nassau Road Run, right at the lake, and this is what you're basically going to be butted up against.
There's going to be these new condos, two 5-story, condo towers. Basically.
So the Hilton, I think, is 15 floors, but it's kind of it's one of those kind of not a short 15, but it's you'd be surprised it's 15. I feel like these 4 or 5-story buildings are going to be half the size of the Hilton, even though they're not
That's
near
possible.
as many floors.
The Hilton's a little bit up on a hill. It's funny. Yeah. I remember what was there before the Hilton. I think I've talked to you about it, and you're like, really? And just the other day, it came up on.
Well, there's the famous house next to it.
Yeah, the Bell Harbor,
which was
the Windermere Racket Club and all that.
Yeah, so the Windermere family
is right behind it.
Yeah.
But you know what used to be right up on the hill that the Hilton's on? A Bonanza Steakhouse. And I remember that when I was a kid. I think I've talked to you about that.
But I was too young for that.
So I had, and I knew it was true because I remember my mom made a big.
I'm not as old as John is.
I remember my mom made a big scene there one time, and so that's what I always remember when I think about it. So certain
at the Bonanza Club,
the Bonanza Steakhouse.
Steakhouse,
yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those deals where you go in line and you kind of like you have a tray and you go down.
You're talking Piccadilly stuff.
Well, it's not a
not a Luby's.
It's a little bit like a cafeteria, but it was called Bonanza. And just about 2 days ago on Facebook, I noticed I'm a member of, if you grew up in Clear Lake page or something like I forgot what it's called exactly.
And I got to get on that group.
And they were sharing that, and everybody was remembering it, and there's an old potho of it. And I'm like, yes, I knew that was a Bonanza. I knew that.
So this was early 80s because
probably late 70s.
Okay, because they might have built the Hilton, and we've talked about this in the past because we actually were going to do from their Sky Lounge an episode one time.
That's right.
It ended up getting rescheduled because some management kind of switched around there,
right.
But. I think it was I want to say it was 82. They built it.
That sounds
that
about
rings
right.
a bell or something.
I moved down here in 76 as a young lad, 3-year-old.
So you got to experience Bonanza.
Yeah, so
Steakhouse.
I remember the Bonanza Steakhouse.
It.
Yeah, both my parents worked on the space program, and we ate at Bonanza. Grew up, lived in Clear Lake Forest, right there on Tail Lake Village. So, they traded a Bonanza Steakhouse for the high-rise Hilton Hotel,
which was a flagship Hilton in its day. Now I mean, the hotels will impress you out there. There's so many, just beautiful, massive hotels. But still to this day, that place is a pinnacle, a landmark.
Yeah.
It is. There's really only 2 hotels in the area like it: South Shore
Harbor
level, and Hilton. And I mean they have stood their ground, and they've stood the time that the times.
And they redid it all. Probably, I want to say now it's probably been about 8 or 9 years. But I remember
time to do it again.
They redid everything. Yeah, got to keep freshening it up, though, right? Yeah, so that's some more
know.
waterfront living development coming to coming to Nassau Bay. So we've talked about Seabrook, Tail Lake Village, Alago, Nassau Bay.
So let's keep going. So we're going to Nassau Bay now, guys. So I want to touch base. This is not official, but Nassau Bay, another one of our loved waterfront communities. They, obviously there's so much involved, and I think back in the day, even more so water related. But there's a lot of beautiful homes in Nassau Bay, and a lot of astronauts that live there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's definitely before
one of the historic neighborhoods in this
before
area.
some of this area was developed. That was the waterfront community at
one
one time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nassau Bay and Alago, really,
100%.
and maybe Timber Cove.
That's
back
it.
in
No,
the day.
yeah,
and then Oak Brook and Clear Lake City,
and Glen Cove across.
Okay, in Leak City, yeah.
But dude, I mean, because that place is old.
Yeah,
Glen Cove is really old. It's really an interesting neighborhood over there.
And of course, historic Leak City. I mean, but
of course, yeah. Well, but
still,
not on the water,
right?
Yeah,
correct.
So we're talking like waterfront.
Yeah, good point.
So going into Nassau Bay, they are talking about doing a big boardwalk and trying to bring in some of that, waterfront life back to the community and try to, there was, water skiing. It was really popular in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It's kind of died off since then. People wakeboard, wake surf, and there's the jet surf boards. And,
what's funny is just the other day, I live right off Taylor Lake. Just the other day, I saw somebody water skiing in Taylor Lake, and it just looked weird to me for some reason, despite the fact
what are they doing? Yeah,
20 years ago, I water skied in Taylor Lake. I mean, it used to be a big thing, but
it was a ski lane back there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that used to be the go-to water skiing place because there was a protected, Clear Lake, there's a lot of, Clear Lake, there's so much activity, it's almost like you don't want to water ski.
Especially back in the 80s and early 90s.
With everybody in their little Chris Craft boats and all, yeah. But yeah, it looked funny to me seeing a guy water ski in Taylor Lake. I mean, that's just kind of to your point.
You just don't see it anymore. I mean, there are ski lakes and communities, and there's Florida. It's still big, and I'm not saying people don't water ski in Texas, but it's kind of died off. But they want to kind of get back into, that glorified water community again that they used to have. They used to have ski competitions. So I know the city is trying to build a big boardwalk, kind of a and they have an area that is over by Party Cove in Nassau Bay.
Yeah, off of Upper Bay Road. I mean, if you're familiar with Upper Bay Road, I mean, really, I still believe that's
Upper Bay where the pier is, too?
Yeah, Upper Bay is where the pier currently is, so you turn it off Nassau Road 1, and you go down and you get to that part where you're going along the water, and there is a boardwalk there, and it's really, I mean, in the palm trees, it's really one of the most pretty views.
There's a sanctuary across the water. Literally, there's no houses. It's protected. It's like for birds.
But it's really one of the most beautiful views around. It's just that little stretch of Upper Bay. I've got a couple friends that live right up there.
They forget about it because when you drive down Nassau Road 1, you can't see it.
True.
So this is kind of since there's better views now, people, that used to be where they might go. Now there's other options, and they keep on driving. There's a whole big lake to drive around, 7 different cities. They want to try to get back in the mix. They're talking to expand the boardwalk, work with a couple different properties, and really kind of do something on the water. So I'll be really excited to see when Nassau Bay kind of does a push like these other communities are doing, and they kind of get some new development coming in. So I try to, keep my ear to the ground on that and keep you guys posted because, man, I wouldn't want nothing more than to have Nassau Bay involved again in water sports and boating.
Right.
Then just if you live in Nassau Bay on the water, great, you own a boat, but getting the community involved if you don't necessarily have a waterfront home. So, yeah, that'll be great. Moving on to Webster. What do we got? All right, so people forget that Webster has water.
Yeah.
So there's a couple apartments in Webster on the water. There's actually there's a waterfront neighborhood just past, right before you get to Leak City and Egret Bay, kind of. There's an area like all that. So all that's technically Webster. That's not Nassau Bay. So now, guys, we've brought this up on the show a lot before. So in Egret Bay, by Scout Bar and a lot of different areas, that strip center. That's Webster water.
Yeah.
So these are bars and restaurants on the water. There's a neighborhood on the water.
Yeah,
there's a couple
lot
of
condo
complexes.
On the water. Yeah, the towers, which was kind of considered. I mean, really for a while in this area, that was the first high-rise condos. I mean,
they're
they
had the hallway style.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the regular apartment style or whatever. Yeah. So a little bit different.
More like downtown
in town
type living.
Downtown thing. Yeah. So
there's one lot. I know there's a lot, or there's an open area, and I actually ran ads for a developer that was going to put not really a high rise, but a really impressive development. This is back before Hurricane Ike in the old Bay Runner magazine. But, and this lot's been basically, it's right off Eager Bay on the water, and it's been vacant, and it looks like